This is the new Scarpa Veloce Lace, a shoe that doesn't really conform to any of the traditional rules and has basically changed the way that we look at intermediate to beginner shoes. Over the last 15 years or so, climbing walls have changed a lot. Like, they're really nice places to be. They cater for everyone. There's not grumpy old men kicking around in them without t-shirts on. And the Veloce Lace is sort of a reflection of that. Scarpa is one of those brands that's taken the time to look at the industry as a whole and understand where the changes have been. And the Veloce, like the changes that have gone in climbing walls, sort of breaks a lot of those old school traditions. Thankfully, climbing shoe brands have also moved with the times, moving away from tradition and stigma around what a beginner or intermediate shoe should be. And Scarpa have done that wonderfully in the new Veloce Lace. So the Veloce Lace is designed to be a beginner to intermediate shoe, but it's soft. I mean, like, really, really soft. It has like a 1mm midsole and a high tensioning system thing that like pulls your foot forward. Basically, all these things shouldn't be in a beginner shoe, but they are, and it actually works really, really well. I think one of the key things that Scarpa have done here with the Veloce is that they've not tried to address too much within climbing. They've looked at indoor climbing and basically having fun with your mates, which means they've created a shoe designed for exactly that purpose. So the Veloce is a microfiber construction. That means that it's really nice and soft and supple, and it has this like velvety feel when you put your foot inside. To be honest, they're sort of so nice to put your foot in. I'm actually struggling to warm up and start my winter wall sessions in anything but the Veloce. So apart from the microfiber construction, the other thing that you'll notice is the shape of them, and the shape of them is wider on the toe box, a little bit more width and depth, and just generally gives your foot sort of like room to spread. So apart from the comfort of the microfiber, the fit is also something that makes this boot really comfortable. It has a more rounded toe box, it's a little bit flatter and a little bit wider, so these things all contribute to the comfort of this shoe. So one of the first things that you'll notice about the Veloce is that it has this Scarpa S72 rubber. Now, this is a super sticky compound that Scarpa have created themselves. So this compound's designed for indoor walls to either smear on volumes or sort of like big macro holds. And it actually works really well. This rubber's actually so sticky on things like volumes that it's totally caught me off guard at certain points. I've actually gone to put my foot on things thinking I'm going to slide off and shin myself, but to my total surprise, I've just stayed there, stuck, which is pretty good. So this S72 rubber has a 1mm midsole behind it, which doesn't sound like a lot, and in all honesty, it doesn't really add to the edging or stiffness of the shoe. But Scarpa say that it's just been put in there just to sort of anchor this super sticky rubber too. And I would agree with that. It actually does a really good job of making sure that this rubber doesn't stretch beyond the limits of what it's capable of. As you can probably tell by now, due to the soft nature of this shoe, it's not exactly amazing at edging, but this S72 rubber is so sticky that it sort of smudges and smidges onto things. So actually, it compensates to a degree for the fact that it can't really hold an edge very well by basically just smearing onto the edge. So on the top of the shoe, Scarpa have done something sort of unusual here. They've actually used a high-performance rand rubber. So they call it M50, and M50 can be found on some of Scarpa's most top-end comp climbing shoes. But it actually works brilliantly on this shoe. It's a single piece of rubber, so there's no seam lines, and obviously having super sticky rand rubber is great for toe hooking or maybe dragging your foot around the edge of an arête. But I think it's how the M50 rand rubber and this super stretchy, sticky S72 work together that actually start to give you the real comfort. In most performance shoes, brands want super sticky rubber, but they're permanently trying to restrict the stretch. In the Veloce, Scarpa have decided that stretch is good, So they use all the properties to make this shoe stretchy and comfortable and adaptable. So the obvious question after that is, do these shoes really bag out with all this stretchy rubber? Well, I've had these for 4 or 5 months and I've used them regularly in the climbing wall every single week. Plus other members of the UKC team have also been climbing in these shoes and none of us have had any bagging issues, which is sort of remarkable. Also within the Veloce Lace is obviously the lacing system. Now this lacing system at first just looks like a normal lacing system, but Scarpa have actually made a real effort here to just refine it and make it as flat and compact as possible. So on the outside of the shoe, we have this nice clean, solid lamination, which creates flat eyelets. And then on the inside of the shoe, they've actually tucked the eyelets inside, almost touching the tongue. So this means when you start to like toe hook or pull your foot against things, those eyelets don't get in the way and don't wear out or rub against things. This is a small thing, but these little details make quite a big difference to just the general longevity of the shoe. The one thing about the lacing system on this shoe is that it makes the shoe really adaptable, whether you need some extra width when it comes to fit, or whether you need to really crank it up to get that like last go effort and get a little tiny bit of performance out of the shoe. Even the laces that Scarpa have chosen have like a tiny amount of stretch in them, and that's just another thing that contributes towards the comfort of this shoe. Once you get under the lacing system, the tongue itself has a nice little bit of padding in it, and Scarpa have actually taken the time to add a small amount of material under the laces to help with abrasion and wear. So these shoes have lots of small details in them that sort of add up to build the whole picture. So it's probably quite obvious that these shoes are comfortable, but how do they actually perform when climbing? Well, I think over the years, loads of climbing shoe brands have used this sort of phrase of like performance, but with comfort. And when it comes to the Veloce Lace, I would actually say it's the other way round, which is the shoe is really comfortable when you put it on your foot. And then when you start climbing, you sort of get this added bonus of performance, and actually more performance than you would expect. So when it comes to performance and actually climbing in these shoes, for me, these are a great shoe for everything from the easiest circuits in the wall right up to those intermediate, stepping into advanced circuits. The shoe actually has a lot about it and can adapt to lots of different angles and hold types. The one thing that is great about this shoe is this combination of comfort and performance means that you can progress and you can try things. You can sort of whack your foot against the wall and it's not excruciating, or you can try and smear across a volume 5, 6, 10 times and you don't feel like you need to take your shoes off and go and have a rest in the cafe for 20 minutes. The Veloce performs really well indoors, which means there is a bit of a downside, which is performance outdoors. This shoe's just not really designed for it. Going to do a general bouldering circuit outside, you need different things. You need probably more midsole, probably more all-round performance. And the Veloce was never really built with that in mind. It was built for having fun in a climbing wall. Having said that though, if you had these shoes in your bag on a bouldering trip, you'd probably pull them out for certain things. And they'd probably perform really well in certain outdoor situations. They're just not going to give you that all-roundness that you might need for a day out doing circuits with friends at Standish Plantation. When it comes to fitting a pair of Veloces, you actually want these shoes to be snug, which is something that most people wouldn't recommend for a beginner shoe. You don't want really any dead space to be in there because there's technology that needs your foot to be in the shoe without room and without it to move. The shoe itself actually creates the comfort by all these soft materials and stretchy elements. Now, having said that, just because these shoes are soft, don't go ramming your feet into them. When it comes to size and fit of the Veloce, I'm a UK 8 in a street shoe, and the Veloce that I've got here is a UK 6.5. This was actually a really nice balance between that snugness for performance and making sure all the elements work in the shoe, but then the stretchiness and the wider toe box arrangement gave me a really nice bit of comfort. So the Scarpa Veloce Lace is sort of a rebel against the norm. All these elements of high performance rubber and tensioning systems just shouldn't be associated with a beginner to intermediate shoe, but they are, and Scarpa have done a really good job here. This is a shoe that I've really enjoyed climbing in, and a lot of people will really enjoy climbing in it. Yes, there's an element that it doesn't perform outside as well, but for most of us, we go to the wall 2 or 3 times a week, and we're going to have a lot of fun climbing in these. I think these shoes are actually appropriate for lots of different people. Yes, Scarpa talk about them as beginner to intermediate shoes, but for those of you that have been climbing for years and just want a pair of shoes that are going to do a job on a Wednesday night climbing with your mates, the Veloce Lace is a perfect shoe for that.